From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots, and welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you live from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with our internet broadcast partners, CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pun and Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. They're all .coms. And joining me today as my co-host in a pinch, and I love my friends, especially my very good friend, the hopefully Republican candidate for Congress in the Nutmeg state of Connecticut, Daria Novak. Daria, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thanks, Rick, and I definitely am running.
Well, that is great. And Daria, I want to thank you for sitting in a pinch. Our very good friend Ken McClinton had a family emergency and had to take off today. And as a little bit of truth going out here, Friday, Ken does such a great job in preparing the show and producing it. It's sort of a coasting day for me, but I got a call about an hour and a half ago from Ken letting me know that things come up in his life that he had to tend to, so he threw it to me, and it's nice to have friends that I could call you and ask you to help me out, Daria.
Hey, if I get to talk about politics, it's my pleasure.
So, Daria, what's on your radar screen this day? What's of interest to you?
Oh, there's just so much going on. I've been talking to friends about how this administration's been taking a shotgun approach, and there's just so many things that in one way we have to fight against that. We almost need to change our strategy and talk about what we can do in the future. Mm-hmm. Everything from, in particular, exercises in the military between Russia and China in the Mediterranean Sea, along, Russian submarines in the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, you just talk about the aggression that has come from people who are not our friends, whether it's North Korea, Iran, Russia, China. This administration is so weak that I'm very concerned about challenges to our security in the coming year.
Mm-hmm. Daria, it seems like people do not learn from history. Because if they'd learned from history, they would realize what's going on. We have a very weak administration in Washington, an administration that gets no respect from our foes around the world. This is very reminiscent of the 1960s all over again, where you had a presumed weak person in the White House. We had an adversary in the Soviet Union who was hell-bent on world domination, and they took advantage of that situation. Kennedy ended up being a lot stronger than what Nikita Khrushchev thought he would be. But once again, we have a Russian, Vladimir Putin, who is hell-bent on world domination, and he sees a weak adversary in the White House, that of Barack Obama. But in this case, he's right, where Nikita Khrushchev was wrong in Kennedy's strength. Vladimir Putin is correct in the lack of strength of Barack Obama, and he is definitely taking advantage of it.
You're very, very correct, Rick. That's why I say I'm so concerned now. It's not even just a feeling, as many liberals like to go on feeling, but if we just talk about data points, the nation-state system was first started back in the mid-1600s, actually at the Treaty of Westphalia in 1644, I believe it was. If you track times from 1644 to now and look at when was the world most violent, when were the most deaths occurring from some type of warfare, it always, during the times when there were a lot of middling states that were competing for power. It was not when there was a strong one or two nation state hegemon system where you had a few strong states like the Soviet Union and the United States. If you look back actually at the Cold War between the Soviets and the Americans, there were not that many deaths. If you look at times when you have other countries like a Germany or other nations that are middling powers competing for prestige, that's when you see a lot of deaths. That's why I'm concerned, because everything that this president has done, in essence, has weakened our security. The Russians right now have a 10-to-1 tactical nuclear advantage over the United States. Plus, our nuclear weapons are aging. They haven't been replaced. The Russians have more advanced weapon systems. They're building bases above the Arctic. The Russian defense minister has announced there are now no-go zones that they can operate up in the Arctic, under the Arctic ice, in essence. I mean, they are becoming very, very aggressive. They're building new double-hulled ice cutters, 17 stories tall, longer than football fields. We have nothing like what the Russians have. And yet this president continues to cut our military and say, the shadow of terrorism is past. I have to question his mental stability.
Daria, when you say the Russians have a 10-to-1 advantage in nuclear weapons.
Tactical nukes, yes.
Tactical nukes. Now, when you say tactical nukes, what is the difference between a tactical nuke and a nuclear bomb?
They are both nuclear weapons. It's just the type. They're a little bit smaller. I'm not a nuclear weapons specialist to go into all the details, but what basically happens is there's developments of nuclear weapons systems through the years. The U.S. stopped or reduced the amount of money we spent to keep our weapon systems current and replace them. The Russians have been increasing their numbers and increasing the technology, improving the technology of their weapons, which makes them more dangerous to us. I've been mentioning how many suitcase weapons or other things have been out there that have been lost.
Right. Now, the reason I asked that question is, please educate me here. I was under the thinking that we had an agreement with Russia at with the collapse of the Soviet Union, that we had an agreement with Russia to limit the number of nuclear weapons that each of our countries could have. Am I right or wrong about that?
We are supposed to be under an agreement, yes.
So,
there are all kinds of when you have an agreement, you have to look at the wording of agreements, though, and what is explicitly included in them. That's, I believe, how they can get around some of what's happening. The issue becomes there are maintenance requirements for keeping nuclear weapons current, safe, etc. If our military does not have the money to maintain what we have, we're going to have big problems in the future. We're already starting to see it now. And with the sequestration of money for Defense Department, when we have increased literally threats from lately even North Korea. We see cyber threats going on. There's just so many types of threats to this country that I find it incredulous that this president can sit back and just act as if everything is okay. It seems that if he repeats a lie a few times, that he thinks he's made it into the truth. The reality is we are being challenged. I'm not in favor of stationing troops all over the world and becoming world policemen. But the reality is we're leader of the free world. We need to act like it. We need to make sure that our allies believe something when we say it. And I am very concerned, not only that we're the laughing stock today, but when a new American president comes in next year, that our allies will even trust that person, given our past behavior over the last 6 or 8 years.
Well, Daria, this, in my opinion, and again, educate me, in my opinion, this is what happens with all the cuts that have come to our defense to pay for welfare and social programs here in this country. It seems to me that all these social welfare are not going to mean a thing if we're dominated by another country.
Exactly. And you want to know something, Rick? If you go and look at the data from the time of President Johnson in the mid-1960s and his war on poverty, the Great Society era, if you want to call it that, and you look at the money spent between then and now, what you will find is there actually is no reduction in the level of poverty in this country. That money has been totally wasted.
Indeed. Hey, Daria, with that, we're going to take our first break, and you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with guest host Daria Novak and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network, WNJC 1360 in Philly, and around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AMFM247.com. Today's show, like all our shows, is brought to you by the First Amendment and protected by the Second. Don't go away. Daria and I will be right back.
They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched at Concord Bridge in Trenton. For freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to Conservative Commandos radio show with guest co-host Daria Novak and yours truly, Rick Trader. And if you'd like to hear rebroadcasts of our show, check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m., you can log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. But you can also hear our show anytime, day or night, from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Daria, before we go much farther, let me inform our listeners as to who our guests are today. At 3:35, we're going to be talking with Patrina Mosley. She is the regional coordinator at Concern Women for America, and she's going to be joining us to talk about the Black Pastors protest Margaret Sanger bust at the National Gallery. And of course, Margaret Sanger is the creator of Planned Parenthood, an avowed racist who created Planned Parenthood with the idea to wipe out the black race, which is very interesting because she's a darling of the Democrat Party. She's a darling of the liberals, by the way, which the black community supports quite heavily. At 4:05, we're going to be speaking with Dave Vego. Dave is the author of the book, The Devil at Our Doorsteps. And Dave is going to be joining us to discuss his book and Trump and the Dream Nightmare and the National Labor Relations ruling on unions and fast food restaurants. Then at 4:35, we're going to be talking with Christina Huff. Christina is the retired vice president for Morgan Stanley, where she managed clients' investments for 13 years. And we're going to be talking with Krista about China and the financial media's power to promote the good in spite of the bad. Defending Fast Track and the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So, Daria, we have a great lineup of guests today, thanks to that guy, Ken McClinton.
Well, I do think this is a really good lineup, and boy, do I have comments on all of these stories. Very current.
All right. I know that you have been following this Trans-Pacific Partnership. I don't know if you want to hold it until we speak with Krista Huff at 4:35, or you want to get into that now, or is there something else that's on your radar screen that's beeping like crazy?
Well, you know what? I've lived in China and worked there, and my first comment would be, it is amazing how much we're becoming like China. They're almost moving more toward us in some ways and becoming more entrepreneurial, while we are moving toward higher levels of government regulation, higher levels of taxation, less freedom. It's just absolutely amazing, and I think that this Trans-Pacific Partnership is one of the worst things that we have had happen in many, many years in this country. Now, I recognize when you start to get into them, and sometimes people's eyes kind of roll to the back of their head. They don't want to know all the numbers and all that. But there's some, really bad stuff, not only with the trade agreement itself, but what it means to our nation state and the way that we operate with separation of powers. One of the really big things that bothers me about it is the consolidation of power in the executive branch. What this agreement basically does is it eliminates Congress's ability to amend or debate trade implementing legislation, and virtually guarantees an up or down vote on this piece of legislation without even any real public review. Not only that, but Congress, it means, will have given up the 67-vote threshold for a treaty and the 60-vote threshold for important legislation. But the wacky part about this is, I mean, you start to think this doesn't sound right, but you add even more to it, that during the entire life of all international trade agreements, during the life of the TPA, or the Trans-Pacific Agreement, there's no real check on the expiration fast-track authority. So basically what is happening is the president has created a living document that can be changed without Congress, without the branch that is supposed to be involved in this having any say. I find that outrageous.
Well, what I think the wacky part about this whole thing has been, Daria, is we have been warned. We have been warned about this Trans-Pacific Partnership. But where is the opposition coming from? It's certainly not coming from the Republican Party. It's almost like a large part of the GOP is in lockstep with this thing. When many Democrats didn't want anything to do with it, okay? Yet you had the Republican Party that's pushing an agenda from Barack Obama. It's crazy. That's the wacky part, Daria.
You know, it really is. I mean, the fact that the president can classify or redact parts of the information on the report that he's supposed to give to Congress on this means that in the future, Congress is not going to have a say. Why are Republicans or Democrats, why is everyone not standing up and saying, wait a minute, this is beyond just a simple agreement. This is how the U.S. government operates. This should be outrageous to anyone who's a constitutionalist, who supports and defends the Constitution. And yet you are correct. There are many within both parties that are just saying, okay, well, it'll be better for everyone. Reality is and we'll talk about this later in the show, there are many, many reasons that this is bad for us.
Daria, yesterday we had retired Major General Paul Vallely on our show talking, and I'm changing gears a little bit on you here, but it goes to the treaties, not the the Trans-Pacific Partnership, but this deal with Iran. Do you know, Daria, and we got this information from General Vallely yesterday, that there are actually two versions of this treaty. One is written in Farsi, the other is written in English. And the wording does not line up. So Iran has agreed to follow the treaty written in Farsi, but totally reject the treaty written in English. And again, it's two separate treaties.
You know what, Rick? Let me tell you something. This is a trick that's been used by many administrations when they want to get around really having an agreement where there would be trouble getting it passed. When we have, I'll go back 30 years. During the Reagan administration, there was a Chinese craft that was shot down, or hurt, I should say, that went down when it hit one of our American planes. It was in international space. The Chinese wanted us to say that, we were sorry for the incident. In other words, we accept blame. The American government didn't want to accept blame because the Chinese were the ones that actually caused the accident. What we did is we printed out a statement saying that we regret and we're sorry for it using certain specific words. And the way that we got around doing it is choosing words when translated into Chinese that had a double meaning. Wow. So we got away without saying we were responsible, yet the Chinese could tell their own people that the U.S. apologized.
Wow, that is unbelievable.
It is definitively a trick. It is being used by the Obama administration against anybody who is a thinking individual involved in this agreement. It is bad for America. On top of that, the Iranians get to inspect themselves.
Yeah, that's another joke. Hey, Daria, we are up against another break, so we'll take it now. You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Daria Novak and yours truly, Rick Trader. Coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, WNJC 1360 in Philly, and around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, AM FM 24/7, and iHeartRadio. They're all .coms. Check out our website, ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. On the other side, we're going to be speaking with Katrina Mosley about the Margaret Sanger bust in the National Gallery of Art. It's a disgrace. Be right back.
You've heard Paul Delks playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night at Concord Bridge in Trenton. For freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Outrageous for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired as I am about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard. From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WA 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
And welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with guest host Daria Novak and yours truly, Rick Trader. And if you'd like to hear rebroadcasts of our shows, check out our websites, ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com, or mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern. You can log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com, but you could also hear our show from your telephone, simply by writing down this telephone number and then calling it 832-999-1199. And we do have our first guest with us, and that is Patrina Mosley. Patrina is the regional coordinator at Concerned Women for America. Patrina, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show. Great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's great that you could join us today. And to start out, please tell us a little bit about Concerned Women of America. What do you all do?
Well, Concerned Women for America is the largest public policy women's organization with over 500,000 members across the country, over 450 prayer and action chapters and home teams, and Women for America chapters, which is our collegiate project. And we've been around for about 35 years serving our nation, advocating for Christian conservative policies. We do that with 7 core issues: sanctity of life, defense of family, education, religious liberty, national sovereignty, sexual exploitation, and support for Israel, our most recent core issue. And we are going to keep standing for what we believe in, what we know that the vast majority of Americans believe in. They just need an advocate in Washington to keep fighting a good fight.
Well, it sounds all like great stuff. Seriously. We've asked you to join us to talk about the Black Pastors' protest of Margaret Sanger's bust at the National Art Gallery. First of all, please tell our audience a little bit about Margaret Sanger, and then please tell me why she has a bust in the National Art Gallery to begin with.
Absolutely. Well, Margaret Sanger, she was the founder of Planned Parenthood. She opened the first birth control clinic in Harlem, New York. She is the author in the Journal of Birth Control Review. She founded the American Birth Control League in 1921, and today that turned into Planned Parenthood, which is now America's largest abortion provider. But what most Americans do not know is that Margaret Sanger was also a eugenist, a racist, and an elitist.
Now, why do you say that?
Well, she believed that blacks and other minorities, the diseased and the disabled, should be eliminated from burdening the society.
Mm-hmm.
Her ideology is what created Planned Parenthood, and it is still succeeding in that today. We even have evidence already that Planned Parenthood has been willing to accept money to abort black babies. Our organization put out a great research article on this called The Negro Project, Margaret Sanger's Eugenic Plan for Black Americans. It was published about 10 years ago, and it is still today our most requested and read article since. So this is no news to the conservative movement, to those who've been in the pro-life movement for quite a while, but Margaret Sanger is no hero. She should not be honored.
She's to the Democrat Party.
Well, what do you know? What do you know? And Margaret Sanger and a lot of the policies of the Democratic Party are the very ones that advocate for policies and solutions that actually hurt black people, that actually hurt minority people. So it is no surprise that, Margaret Sanger is someone that they look up to. And, with Margaret Sanger, you're not going to find a lot of the things that I'm about to say on Wikipedia. Because if you want to be a true seeker of knowledge, you go to the purest extent, which is from the person's mouth itself. Margaret Sanger, even in her autobiography called My Fight for Birth Control, she wrote, I associated poverty, unemployment, drunkenness, cruelty, quarreling, fighting, debt, and jails with large families. She even said that the greatest sin is bringing children into this world that have diseases from their parents, that have no chance in the world to be human beings practically, delinquents, prisoners, all sorts of things just marked when they're born. That, to me, is the greatest sin that people can commit. This lady saw even the disabled and the diseased and those who may not have had reputable and morality traits as less than human beings. They should not be born. They should not be given the chance to be born. She even said, when it comes to the black, she said, it is from my experience that while colored Negroes have great respect for white doctors, they should get closer to their own members and more or less lay their cards on the table, which means they're ignorant, superstitious, and doubt. We should hire 3 or 4 colored ministers, preferably with social service backgrounds, with engaging personalities. The most successful educational approach to the Negro is through a religious appeal. We don't want the word to get out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. And the minister is a man who can straighten that idea if it ever occurs to any other more rebellious members. So this lady, she is very clear in her intent to eliminate those that she deems inferior or unfit for society and for the human race. She was also a devout follower of Thomas Robert Matthias. He was a 19th century professor of political economics, and he shared the same views, that he saw society burdened by poverty and hunger and evil. He thought the best way to do that is to control the population and to control the breeding of those populations.
Petrina, sitting here listening to everything you're saying about Margaret Sanger, what she said and what she stood for, if you remove the terms black, Negro, colored, whatever they're in there, and put in there Jew, it sounds very similar to what Adolf Hitler said about the Jewish population in Europe in the 1930s. Yet there's not a bust of Adolf Hitler in the National Gallery of Art, is there? So why is there one of Margaret Sanger?
It is a slap in the face, not only to African Americans, but to human beings who may be disabled, who may have a disease or a mental disability. These are the same types of people, black, white, or Hispanic, whatever the color may be, that she wanted to eliminate and deem to be unfit for society. And it is... That's what
Hitler said about the Jews.
Exactly. And, I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's exactly what we're seeing today, with the Center for Medical Progress releasing the videos exposing Planned Parenthood profiting off of aborted tissues and specimens from abortions. And we see that they're being taken to these labs, dissected, sold part by part, experimented on, just like the Jews in the Nazi German camp.
Hey, Petrina, we got to take a quick break. Could you hold on for just 2 minutes for us, please?
Absolutely. I'll be here.
That'd be great. And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with guest host Daria Novak and yours truly, Rick Trader. And we're coming to you live from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philly. Around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, AM/FM 24/7, and iHeartRadio. They're all .coms. Please check out our website, ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Our guest this segment is Petrina Mosley. She is the regional coordinator at Concerned Woman for America. We'll be right back.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding. to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, PRSNetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with the co-host of the Venuccio Novak Report, which is heard here on WNJC 1360, part of the Conservative Commandos radio network, and yours truly, Rick Trader. And for rebroadcasts and podcasts of our shows, check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com. Our guest this segment is Patrina Mosley. She is the regional coordinator at Concerned Women America. Patrina, thank you for holding through that break. We appreciate your time.
No problem.
So why is this bust of Margaret Sanger in the National Gallery of Art a concern for Concerned Women for America? After all, we are in a war against women, aren't we? Isn't Margaret Sanger a woman? Isn't her bust in the National Gallery of Art?
Well, there's a couple of things wrong with that. First off, this lady, she believed and acted out of an ideology that saw human beings, certain human beings, inferior to the rest. And for such an inclusive society that we live in today, you would think this lady would be condemned and demonized as the very mother of intolerance. We hear that word thrown around so much today. She believe that even women should be forced into sterilization if they had a partner that had a history of mental disability or bad blood or diabetes, certain medical conditions. These things we don't want on society. So I don't see how this woman can really say she was for women making their own choices. She is also being, this injustice being exhibited of all places in Struggle for Justice exhibit. So I guess it looks like from those who are more for the side of of abortion being a convenience instead of a topic of morality, they're going to stay on the side of abortion and women's rights, so-called, and women's choice. Those who see her as a hero, they can't see the other side of the issue of life, of the issue of what real women's choices look like, because for them it's all about the agenda. And it doesn't matter what points that you bring up. If it doesn't fit their agenda, they will willingly turn a blind eye to it and ignore it. Because people who honor Margaret Sanger have one thing that they want to accomplish in this country. They have a completely different set of visionary concepts for this country, and that is to continue to give women the options of saying, yes, it's okay for me as a mother to kill my baby. It's my right. It's my choice. They want to create a mindset. And there's a lot of things that people will do for the love of money, and it's been obvious that this is a money-making machine.
It sure is.
And so this is the agenda that they're willing to perpetuate. It doesn't matter what the facts are. It's all about the agenda. And I will give the opposition this. They are very focused, and they have been dead set on this focus for quite a long time, and that is why Margaret Sanger's bust is being honored in the National Portrait Gallery Museum. You mentioned the war on women, and that's something that we've been hearing a lot about from politicians and those who do a lot of work in the political arena, trying to sway votes to their side or whoever's side. But there are really two wars on women. One is real, one is not. And CWA put out a great booklet on this that has a lot of stats and figures on the concept of the war on women and some of the issues that I'm going to go through today, but don't have time to go into all the details. But that booklet is available on our website at concernedwomen.org. But one war on women is to make them believe there is a war on women, and the other is the real war on women, which hurts society as a whole, not just women.
Here on the Conservative Commandos radio show, we're speaking with Patrina Mosley. She's the regional coordinator at Concerned Women for America. Patrina, on the other line, I do have my co-host, Daria Novak, and I know Daria wants to get into this conversation. But Daria, it amazes me that when they were looking to take Hamilton off the $10 bill and replace him with a woman, that Margaret Sanger is one of the people that was considered to have her face placed on the $10 bill.
Well, I totally agree with you. She wrote a book, I believe, called Pivot of Civilization. And just to give you an idea, it's not even just a war on women. She was against poor people, immigrants, so many different groups. In her book, she calls them human weeds, reckless breeders, spawning human beings that never should have been born. How could we put somebody like that on any bill? How can we celebrate them? But I don't truly understand, and maybe Patrina, has an answer for this, is when you read these words in the founder of Planned Parenthood's own words, why aren't female Hillary Clinton, who claims to be in favor of women and the poor and the displaced, why aren't they outraged by what's happening?
It is a question that I have consistently racked my brain with, and I'm a millennial. I'm in my late 20s, and this issue is something that a lot of us as millennials are really getting into and taking the time to do the research on who Margaret Sanger is. And you look at how she's praised today, and it makes you just tilt your head and just scratch. You just don't understand it. And the best answer that I can give is what I said before. It's all about the agenda. We can even see with Hillary, she, with the whole Benghazi scandal and the emails, it doesn't matter. This woman is still praised as a hero because it's all about the agenda. Planned Parenthood, there's been 8 videos released now that gives incriminating evidence of their disrespect for the dignity of life, and them profiting illegally profiting from babies and their tissues. And yet we have rallies and people willing to come out and say, we're going to stand with Planned Parenthood. And then now in the social media age, Twitter fest of hashtag stand with Planned Parenthood, it's because that people's hearts are so hardened to only one agenda, and that is abortion. That is whatever marketing tagline that you want to put on it, women's rights, women's choice. It's all about the agenda, and their thinking is don't get distracted by the facts. Go for the agenda. And that's the best answer that I can really come up with for this situation.
I mean, Katrina, it almost makes you want to take some of her quotes and not say who they're from, and just ask them, a person on the street, and say, you know, if somebody from a group said something like a KKK Klan group said that they wanted to create a race of thoroughbreds. That's a direct quote from something that Margaret Sanger wrote in Birth Control Review back in 1921. If we ask people on the street, is it okay to create a race of thoroughbreds, or does that sound like something from the KKK or some other group? You know people would be outraged. Yet somehow when it comes out of Margaret Sanger's writing, it's just overlooked. I don't know. How do we wake people up to this?
We have to have a new face to the issue. We have to have a diverse face to the issue, because when we say things like this, the automatic pushback is this is just a right-wing conspiracy from conservative Christian Republican whites. And, you know, that's not the case. We see the facts before us. But what we have to do is to continue to be faithful in our messages, like with CWA and CURE and the people who put out the Ma'afa 21 DVD that clearly explains Margaret Sanger's intention for eliminating the black race and those who are considered inferior. We have to continue to push out that message and not give up, because people are waking up. The light is breaking through the darkness, and particularly right now with these videos, people are waking up. And we have to continue to do that through social media. This age is growing rapidly through the globalization of social media. If you put it out there, it gets shared 20 billion times before the hour is even over. And we have to continue to educate people and train their minds to start thinking, to start looking for truth and to look past the agenda. I do believe that education has a lot to do with it, but also changing people's hearts to have core principles and values before they look at the issues. Because if you don't have your principles already set, that life is valuable, that without seeking the truth, there can be no true justice, then you're going to have people believing anything. But we have to start teaching people to think critically through the issues by making their principles and their worldviews set in truth and hopefully in Christianity.
You know, we only have about a minute left, but I do have one quick question. If we did not have abortion that included black children, how many more blacks would there be in America today, do you think? I mean, this really is a race war in a lot of ways.
It really is, and since 93 is where the country actually started to document abortions, we've lost 25% of the black population here in this country. That's a lot. That's a quarter.
25%. Wow.
25% of the black population has been lost to abortion. Abortion is the number one killer of the African American.
Patrina, I hate to do this, but we do have to wrap up our interview. We've got a time limit here, but I wanted to thank you so much for joining us today on the Conservative Commandos radio show. And please tell our listeners where they could go for more information about Concerned Women for America.
Absolutely. You can feel free to look at all the resources I mentioned today. The War on Women booklet, the truth behind the War on Women can be found at www.concernedwomen.org. Also, our article called The Negro Project, Margaret Sanger's Eugenic Plan for Black Americans, can be found there on our website as well at concernedwomen.org.
Patrina Mosley, Concerned Women for America, I want to thank you so much for joining us today on the Conservative Commandos radio show. Take care. God bless.
Having me. You too. God bless.
Bye-bye. And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Daria Novak and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network, WNJC 1360 in Philly, and around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pun and Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, AM/FM 24/7, and iHeartRadio. They're all .coms. Please don't go away. Daria and I will be right back with our next guest, Dave Bago.
1360 AM, WNJC, Washington Township, Philadelphia.
You've heard Paul Delks playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired as I am? Regard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard. From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Daria Novak and yours truly, Rick Trader. And if you'd like to hear rebroadcasts of our shows, check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com, or mornings at 9 a.m. You can log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. You can also hear our show from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Our next guest is Dave Bego. Dave, am I getting that right, Bego?
Rick, it's actually Bego. Thank you.
Bego. Thank you. And Dave is the author of The Devil at Our Doorstep, and his expertise for writing this book stems from his actual first-hand experience while waging war with Andy Stern and the SEI. Dave, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show. Great to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on.
Well, it's our pleasure, and we've asked you to join us today to talk about Trump and the dream nightmare and the National Labor Relations Board ruling on unions and fast food. Where should we begin, Dave?
It's up to you. I'm happy to begin either way.
Well, let's talk about Donald Trump. It seems like he's, for some reason, in the news, but we'll start there.
Yeah, Donald Trump, I like some of the points he's making and some of the things that he wants to do. I do wish, Rick, that he was a little more polished sometimes in how he presents it, because he gets a little brazen. But on the other side of that, he's very plain, he's outspoken, no holds barred, and he's exposing the failures of this president, current president, and administration, and of the Republican majority, who are not, they don't have any backbone. They're not standing up to this president and, doing things they need to do to secure this country and make us safe and improve jobs and wages in this country. And I think Trump understands that.
When you say you wished he was a little bit more polished, what do you mean by that, Dave?
Well, you remember when he first came out and talked about closing down the border, and he's talking about throwing people across the border, just the way he put it. Mm-hmm. People have to understand, I fought the SEIU, and they came after me and really attacked me using politicians and clergy people and little kids in my neighborhood on Halloween and that. And one of the ways that I beat them is I went out in front of the press and I went out in front of my employees, who from all different backgrounds, Hispanic, blacks, whites, and I talked to them professionally about what truly was going on. I was direct. Mm-hmm. I mean, I exposed the truth, and I was very honest and upfront about it. But I didn't get off base. I stayed polished and professional all the time. And what happened is that I won my people over, I won other people over, and then the press just left me alone, and the SEIU, after a while, refused to debate me.
Well, that's pretty hard to do. What you did, Dave, was pretty hard to do when you have people coming at you. A lot of times when SEIU go after somebody, they go after their throat. They don't care about how they look or sound. They just want to attack. So you say there is a method, there is a way to defeat these people and at the same time hold the upper hand?
Yeah, and like I said, I think he's gotten better because I've been watching over the past several weeks, and he's a little more polished on it. He's still getting his point across. He's still direct, and I hope he continues to do that because I'm going to be honest with you. We need to close the borders, and I talk about this in my blog for a lot of reasons. One because of security, how many terrorists may be coming across. The other is because these people are coming across, and unfortunately there's a lot of businesses in this country that hire them and pay them under the table less than minimum wage. Of course, they're not paying payroll taxes, and there's no income taxes, and that's hurting the American economy, and it's taking American jobs. And for people like us that do business the right way, it's hard for us to compete. And the other part is, the drugs or the gun situation that Obama and Hillary are against. What a lot of people don't realize is a big part of the gun problem is the fact that they're letting illegal guns come across the border, number one. But number two is that the majority of crimes are the result of drugs and narcotics. And I know that because I know the chief of police here in Indianapolis, and he's told me that.
Dave, it seems to me, the SEIU is, in my opinion, in bed with the Democrat Party. I would think that the SEIU would want to protect its members by not wanting this large base of people coming across their borders and looking for jobs, because they might take some of those jobs of people that belong to the SEIU. Please explain to me the SEIU's motivation as far as continuing to back the Democrat Party that's in favor of open borders.
Well, Rick, you're exactly right, and they're hypocritical about it, just like this president is. What they want to do is, on one side, they want to tell people they're all for them. The SEIU, they're the ones that are in favor of the fight for 15. They're the ones pushing that, raising minimum wage to $15 an hour. Of course, the president's been behind the raising of the minimum wage. On the other side, they want these people to come across the border, and the reason they do is twofold, and that they're in bed with the president on this is, number one is they know that they can get these people lined up and coerced into voting for the Democratic Party. Even though they're not legal, they still find a way to get them signed up and take them to the polls and vote, because I know I've talked to some of them. In fact, I had one on a radio program a year or so ago that came on the radio program and admitted it. And the second thing is they look at this as an opportunity in the future that these people, because part of the president's executive amnesty program is that he'll give these people green cards, basically, and they'll become Americans. Well, at that point, the government, and they've already done this, they're turning over these people's personal information to the SEIU, and they'll go out and try and force unionize them. So it's a big scam behind the scenes, and it's not, they don't care about these people, they don't care about the American government and the American way of life. It's all about the union dues and the money to perpetuate their goals in the Democratic Party.
Well, Dave, it's very interesting that you mentioned union dues, and there's another very large union out there. It's the NEA. My wife, being a retired teacher, was forced to belong to the NJEA. And I just want to throw this at you that about 10 years ago, I heard that the NJEA took in about $140 million a year. $140 million a year in union dues from teachers. And this is just in the state of New Jersey. I would like to know where all this union dues goes, Dave. I really would.
Well, the majority of it, and by the way, the union dues, about 50% of it goes to politics, okay? And we know this because in my book, and that's my second book, The Devil at Our Doorstep, that I wrote after I won in Washington. My first book I wrote after we won in Indiana, and it was appealed to Washington. And the second book, I put some stories from people around the country that have been abused by the union who read my first book and sent me their stories. And one of them is a gal in California, and she's a member of the SEIU because she works for the state, and she has to be in the union. And she has exposed them the past 2 years and had a vote on people dropping out having whatever money is paid towards politics dropped out of their union dues, and because California has a rule where they can do that once a year, and each time she's got over 50% of the people in her local to do it, and about 50% of their dues have been dropped because that's what's going to politics, and about 95% of that is to the Democratic Party.
Hey, Dave, we got to take a quick break. Could you hold on, please, because we want to bring you back and learn more about your book, The Devil at Our Doorstep. Can you hold for us, please? All right, you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Daria Novak and yours truly, Rick Trader, and we're coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network, WNJC 1360 in Philly, and around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, AM FM 24/7, and iHeartRadio. They're all .coms. Please check out our website, ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Our guest this segment is Dave Bego. He is the author of the book, Devil at Our Doorstep. Don't go away. We will be right back.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But paper, we must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Daria Novak and yours truly, Rick Trader. And you can hear rebroadcasts of our show, or podcasts as some people call them, from our website, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com. We're mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern. You can log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com, but you can also hear our show from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Our guest this segment is Dave Bego. He's the author of the book, The Devil at Our Doorstep. Dave, thanks for holding through that break. We appreciate your time.
No, I appreciate being with you guys and helping get out the word.
All right. Dave, tell us a little bit about your book, Devil at Our Doorstep.
Well, The Devil at Our Doorstep is my second book. My first book was The Devil at My Doorstep after I won here in Indiana from the National Labor Relations Board, and it was appealed to Washington. We think it wasn't by the SEIU, it was by the federal government, but we think it's because Andy Stern, who was president of the SEIU at the time, called the White House and asked him to do it. It took another 14 months, and we won in Washington, and I came out with my second book, which includes the first book and Washington, and also stories of other people across the country that read my first book and sent me how they were being abused by union bosses. And the interesting thing is that what happened in this book, or in this, what happened is the SEIU tried to force unionize all the major cleaning companies across the Midwest, us being one of them. And they wanted me to sign what's called a neutrality agreement, which would take my employees' rights away to a secret ballot election to decide if they want to be in the union or not. Go to card check, where they get just a bare majority to sign union cards, 50% plus one, and you're automatically unionized. And to facilitate that, I would have to give a list of my employees and their home addresses so they could go to their homes and intimidate them and pressure them until they signed the cards. And I told them, look, I'm not anti-union. If you want to have an election, I'll live with it. And they said, no, you're going to sign it. Every other major company has. And I said, I won't do it because it's anti-American. And they said, we're going to attack you. And they did. And they used politicians against me. They used clergy people against me. Used little kids in my neighborhood on Halloween. And they used the press against me. They filed unfair labor practices, OSHA complaints. It went on, and we figured out how to beat them and turn the tide, and won the battle. And I'll be honest with you, Rick, I was kind of naive to the political end of it. You know, I've always been a conservative and voted that way, although one time I did vote for a Democrat for a governor here in Indiana, and that was Evan Bayh. But they used Evan Bayh against me. He was a senator by this time. They had him contact some of my top contracts in Indianapolis and ask him to cancel my contract unless I sign this neutrality agreement.
So, Dave, you're a businessman.
Yep.
And what is your business?
The cleaning business. We're a commercial cleaning janitorial company.
Okay.
And you know, I just I couldn't believe how the unions are using union dues for political money to bribe these politicians to do their bidding for them. And but like I say, we fought through it and we won. And I've written the book so I can wake up America to what's going on politically in this country, and how the Democratic Party is being controlled by the unions and the union bosses in this country.
Before I bring Darian into the conversation, Dave, I wanted to ask you this question. What is the latest on the National Labor Relations ruling on fast food restaurants?
Well, you know, that's kind of a sad thing. They're doing that to help out the SEIU because, again, the SEIU is very close to this president, and he's put people on the board of the NLRB that are very pro-labor, and they're trying to do what the SEIU and the other radical unions want to do. And just real quick off the side, so you guys know, President Obama, when he was running for the Democratic nomination in 2008 for president, spoke in Chicago to the SEIU, and he says, I've been a part of you my whole adult life. I've worked with you. I've organized with you, and together we're going to paint this country purple. Purple is the color of the SEIU. Subsequently, they have marched in the streets of California with the Communist Party. So this is what you're dealing with, okay? And this is the NLRB. They're trying to set up, you know, unions have been struggling. They're losing membership, and they're changing every rule they can to force unionized people. And that's what this is all about, so that the union, the SEIU and others, they can go after McDonald's and try and force unionized people across the country in a short period of time without going through all the franchisees. And This is all geared towards the unions, unionizing these people, getting their dues money, and that's going to be poured back into the political scheme for the Democratic Party.
Here at the Conservative Commandos radio show, we're talking with Dave Bigo. He's a private businessman, and he's also the author of the book Devil at Our Doorstep. Dave, I wanted to bring Daria Novak into the conversation. I know Daria has a question or two for you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm a very strong right-to-work person, but, you know, I just want to talk about some of the special privileges that labor gets and ask you, how can they do this? Right now, in 1932, there was the Norris-LaGuardia Act, and basically what unions are now allowed to do is that act okays the right for them, for unions, to trespass. They're exempt from monopoly laws, unions, and in 1973 in U.S. versus Edmonds, they're exempt from being prosecuted from union violence. They're exempt from the Hobbs Act, which said you can't obstruct interstate commerce. It seems to me that the unions continue to get big government on their push for much more than just simple unionization. It really is monopolization in a sense, and lo and behold, unions are exempt from laws on monopoly. I mean, it seems to me that this is detrimental to this country. As we've seen in virtually every right-to-work state, we have, you know, more economic vitality, faster growth in manufacturing, lower unemployment, fewer work stoppages, higher standards of living. I mean, what does the union today bring to people? It seems they're using big government to create a monopoly, which actually creates a worse situation for workers.
Well, you're exactly right, and the truth is they get all these benefits because they're pouring the money in the Democratic Party, and they're the ones that have pushed all these initiatives to protect the unions. And the National Labor Relations Board right now is, you know, they did the ambush election law back in April, and they did this one yesterday on the franchisees versus the franchisor, and they've got more of them in the works. That what they're trying to do is set it up so the unions can unionize people across the United States and regain their membership strength, and of course with that more money to effectively pour into the Democratic Party. And the ultimate goal, especially with people, and I've talked about this many times, with this administration is that this president, I believe, he wants to destroy this country, bring down capitalism and the free market, and install socialism / communism and take over. He's one of those that believes in a one world government where it's a socialistic government. Everybody's the same. Everybody gets paid about the same. They work about as hard. And the reason they want to do that is very, very simple. Because they're the ones in power. They control things. They control everybody. And by doing this, it's easy to control them. And that's where this is all going, because I've seen it with the unions themselves and negotiating with them, because we do have a couple union contracts, and they try to do the same thing. They want certain things and everything so they can control the people.
Well, you know, it's really true. Federal bureaucrats spent about $2.6 billion a year on job training programs under the Workforce Investment Act, and these training programs must be administered by boards filled with union. It seems to me there's collusion between government and the unions.
Well, that's exactly right, because what they want to do, it's like, and I'm a member of the Harris versus Quinn Supreme Court thing that was just passed down here a few months ago, where it basically said that people that were home health care workers didn't have to be in the union and pay union dues. And that was a big win for these people, because they were basically paying dues, and they really weren't even in the union. They were just forced to do it because of the Democratic government in Illinois. And the SEIU lost a huge chunk of money there. I forget what, something like $15 to $20 million a year. And but now the state of Illinois has gone back in and said, well, we're going to put the SEIU in charge of training these people and other things. So you know what they're going to do? They're going to go back in and behind the scenes force unionize these people so they get the dues money back.
Dave, we've been speaking with Dave Bigo. He is President and CEO of EMS. They're an industry leader in the field of environmental workplace maintenance, and he is also the author of a couple of books, one being Devil at Our Doorstep. Dave, please tell our audience where they can get your book.
Well, they can go to my website, thedevil@ourdoorstep.com, and they can read my blogs, and they can buy my book there. In fact, I think there's there where they can go in, click on, and get a discount on it. And I just want to say one more thing to you real quick. I told you clergy people attacked me, and one of the clergy people read my first book, and he called me and we had lunch, and he sat down and he apologized. He says, Dave, everything you say in your book is true. I was wrong. The union was wrong. And I hope you'll forgive me. And he wrote us a letter of recommendation, which is in the second book. So it's hard to dispute the facts that are in the book.
Dave, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the Conservative Commandos radio show. One more time, your website, please.
thedevil@ourdoorstep.com. And thank you for having me on for what you do.
Well, Dave, we'd like to have you on again. In all honesty, this interview, I wasn't totally prepared for it because a very good friend, Ken McClinton, my regular co-host on Friday, was called away at the last minute. He was supposed to do the interview, but I know Ken would love to have you talk more about your book. Would you come back on with us sometime, please?
Absolutely. Just let me know when it's convenient, and we'll work it out.
All right. Dave Bigo, thank you so much for joining us on the Conservative Commandos radio show. Take care. God bless.
Thank you, and God bless. Have a good weekend.
All right, you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Daria Novak and yours truly, Rick Trader, and we're coming to you from the studios of WNGC 1360, that of the Conservative Commandos radio network, and around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pun and Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, AM/FM 24/7, and iHeartRadio. They are all .coms. A couple more .coms for you. Our websites, ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Don't go away. We'll be right back with our next guest, Krista Huff.
You've heard Paul Deltz playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. Make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard. From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
We have with us today Krista Huff, a retired vice president of Morgan Stanley, where she managed client investments for 13 years and served as equity coordinator in her branch office. In addition to managing the Goodfellow website, Ms. Huff writes for Street Authority and has written extensively for Ransom Notes Radio and Town Hall Finance. Krista, welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Thank you, Daria. It's great to be here.
Well, I know Rick and I have been very excited about you coming on to the show today. There is so much to talk about when it comes to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or the TPP. This agreement, from everything that I've been able to read about it, is just horrific when it comes to constitutional issues, what's good for America, what's good for American workers. Where do you stand on this agreement? Do you think that there's anything positive about it?
Anything positive? Nothing off the top of my head, no. I'm just so keyed into all of the alarming facets of it that I never really sit back and think, is there a bright side to this whole thing?
Well, you know, Krista, you think when our government is negotiating something, when the administration is negotiating a trade agreement, that they would be doing it because there's something that's positive for the American people. Now, I spent 10 years with the State Department. I was on trade negotiating teams going out to Asia long ago in the Reagan administration. One of the rules that we had was you never put something on the table to negotiate it if it's not something you're willing to give up or to potentially change. Mm-hmm. It seems to me that the Obama administration has given up everything. I don't see what we've gotten out of this.
There are things that they're pushing that they have not achieved yet, and actually things that are harmful to people, extensions on patents, extensions on copyrights that make doing business, gaining medicines, et cetera, are much more expensive for the citizens of the world. So I think they think they're going to gain something out of it, but I don't see how we as citizens gain anything.
From what I've been able to read, if we look at this, it's really, in a sense, the president consolidating power within the executive branch. Do you think that this is a dangerous precedent in the way that this agreement is being handled?
Well, Obama's been in office, about 7 years, and it's just been a train wreck in terms of the executive office taking powers that shouldn't necessarily belong to them, people in Congress not standing up to him and stopping him. Nobody ever forced him to provide a real birth certificate. I know people, don't like necessarily to hear that topic, but it's just one example of areas where everybody rolled over and let the president have what he wanted. And now we have a whole bunch of globalists and socialists pushing these trade agreements that give up sovereignty in all different facets of American life to global courts and to the new Trans-Pacific Partnership Commission, which will now be deciding things where we want Congress to decide things, and the U.S. Senate instead will have global commissions deciding our way of life in America.
You mentioned something that's really important, I think, and that is when we talk about giving up sovereignty, this actually means that if there is some trade problem, an American corporation could have to answer not to our sovereign government, but to international bodies. Is that correct?
Yes. The new Trans-Pacific Partnership Commission will supervise all kinds of problems. They'll decide things on the fly. The TPP is a living agreement, which means if somebody goes to the commission and says, hey, can you clarify this point? Not only could they clarify it, they could change it completely. And now we will be stuck with whatever they change it to. And yes, we have a vote on some of the changes. Like, let's say they want to let China into the as one of the negotiating partners. Well, if the U.S. votes no and Peru and Chile vote no, but all the other countries vote yes, guess what? China's our new trading partner. So we don't even have a veto of the changes that will take place with this document.
Now, when you called it a living agreement or that living agreement provision, it really means that it changes to this, if you want to call it living agreement, would not require congressional approval. Is that correct?
That's correct. It just requires a majority vote amongst the 12 participating countries to let the listener know, okay, so what is this living agreement? Let's say you had a prenuptial agreement for your marriage or a divorce agreement or a custody agreement. If these documents could be arbitrarily changed without you agreeing to the changes, you would be horrified. Well, that is what these trade agreements are like. The moment we sign them, we are handing over authority to the future of the trade with those countries to a global commission, and literally they could make 100 changes the first month, and if the U.S. voted no on every one of those 100 changes, if we were not in the majority on that vote, we would lose 100 times.
So it seems to me then that U.S. workers really could be in trouble because they could be subject to sudden changes in tariffs, regulations, dispute resolution proceedings in international tribunals where we don't have control. And on top of that, my understanding is that if the president decided on his own to update this agreement in the future, he wouldn't have to go to Congress.
Correct. I mean, Congress is at the moment Congress signs this thing, they are out of the loop forever.
So does that mean that for the life of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, it's really left up to the executive branch then without Congress on any changes?
Yes, pretty much it does. Let me give you an example of some of these sovereignty issues. Okay, first of all, there are when Congress signed off on Fast Track and the President signed Fast Track into law right around July 1st, Fast Track didn't just apply to this trade agreement. It applied to all trade agreements in the next 6 years. Right now there is another trade agreement being negotiated called the Trade and Services Agreement. People call it TISA. And TISA says that the U.S. will be mandated to accept
foreign workers from 50 different countries, including several Muslim countries. We know that those countries do not like the U.S., and they're attacking people all over the world. So we will be forced to accept immigrants. They will not have to meet any of the standard requirements that normal immigrants go through when they apply to come into our country. They will not be subject to minimum wage laws. Pretty much, if Mitsubishi comes and builds a plant here and they want to bring a whole bunch of workers from Japan, they're just going to bring them in. They're going to pay them whatever they want. It's going to be cheaper for them to bring in their own employees than to hire American employees. So I just don't see, not only is the Trans-Pacific Partnership a train wreck for American workers, but so will these other trade agreements be that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, Krista, we have to take a break, but would you stay with us? Because there's a lot more I'd love to ask you about on this agreement.
Yes, thank you, Daria.
Thank you.
And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Daria Novak and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network and WNJC 1360 in Philly, around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, AMFM247.com. They're all .coms. Also iHeartRadio.com. Please stick around. We're talking with Krista Huff about the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm messy, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote, "Give us freedom" was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Daria Novak along with Rick Trader, and today we're speaking with Krista Huff, a retired vice president of Morgan Stanley and somebody who is very knowledgeable about the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Krista, you had mentioned something before the break about, the immigration issues. What this reminds me of is back in 2011, the U.S. entered into an agreement with South Korea, never brought before Congress to increase the duration of L1 visas, a visa that affords no protection for U.S. workers. Under this agreement that President Obama negotiated, we've seen a 50% jump in the U.S. trade deficit in its first 2 years. Now, that equates to about 50,000 jobs lost. It seems to me that with the Trans-Pacific Partnership, that we could potentially see more American job losses. Do you think that could happen?
I would certainly expect that too, because that's been the trend. Over the last 10 years, America has lost 5.7 million manufacturing jobs, and major economists attribute approximately 60% of that job loss to these international trade agreements, such as NAFTA, such as the one with South Korea. So it is widely believed amongst the activists that we will lose even more jobs as we sign more and more of these trade agreements.
I just find it amazing. I mean, I kept looking for what is going to be the good thing, that secret kernel that says, of truth or whatever, that says, oh, there's really a lot of good in this. I just don't see it. Another area that concerns me is currency manipulation. With the devaluation of right now the Chinese currency, but the other countries devaluating their currencies really to create artificially lower prices of their exports, while really artificially raising the price of our exports to them. Is that going to continue under the TPP?
There's nothing in the TPP to prevent currency manipulation. It hasn't been addressed. I forget the year, it might have been 2004 or so, there was a previous major trade agreement being negotiated, and Congress's number one demand was that currency manipulation be addressed in the negotiations. And when push came to shove and they signed the document, it hadn't been addressed at all, and that was their number one demand. So we have absolutely no reason to believe that it will be addressed this time either.
Well, I know in 2014 there was a biannual report from the Treasury Department that concluded that the yuan, or the renminbi, the Chinese currency, remains significantly undervalued, but the Treasury Department failed to designate China as a currency manipulator. It seems this administration is just ignoring major issues. I just don't see this being good for the American people, the American worker, in any way. It seems that the president... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think there are two major forces behind these trade agreements, and it has nothing to do with being pro-American. You've got the multinational companies that are pushing really hard to sell as much of their product as they can everywhere in the world, and that has to do with their stock prices, and I can explain that if you need. And then you've got just the inherent globalists and socialists. They don't believe in sovereign nations. They want everything to be a one-world government where the people who run it have even more power than they do now. None of that has anything to do with doing what's right for America.
I'm so desperate to find something good that this administration has done, and I just don't see this. It seems to me that we're going to be every year having tens of thousands of more foreign guest workers coming in. As it's happened in past deals, it seems that there's less transparency within government. It seems that it's giving way too much power to the president. If this continues and it goes through, is there any way we can change the direction of these trade agreements in the future if a new administration comes in and recognizes the dangers to the American worker?
It would almost take an act of God. I think that if you got enough people in Congress to vote to extricate ourselves from a trade agreement, I think it could be accomplished. However, what are the odds? That kind of thing never takes place.
It's just absolutely unbelievable. Rick, how would you like to be one of these other countries on the other end of the negotiation? They must feel that they got everything they could possibly want.
Well, let's look at the bright side. We had the trade ministers from each country met in Hawaii in late July, and I definitely expected them to cave into U.S. demands, agree to this and that, compromise, sign the darn thing, and then be ready to present it to Congress. And actually what happened was everyone dug in their heels, nobody compromised on anything, and they all took their marbles and went home, and which is awesome. And then even just today, the Japanese economic minister, who blogs occasionally and talks to the press quite a bit, he was speaking with the Japanese Times in an article published today. He said, after election campaigning starts in Canada, it will be difficult to continue the TPP negotiation, which means he pretty much does not foresee this document being finalized. So not only did they not compromise last month, but they're no closer to it this month.
I'm just incredulous at this. I have a saying lately that since this administration came in, I need to buy stock in the corporation that produces Tums, because I just don't see any good coming out of it. And if I bought enough Tums tablets, I probably would be wealthy today, because it's just unbelievable the things that are going on. It seems that the Chinese have devalued their currency too again, which is further hurting us.
Right, and they need to do that to help shore up their economy, because their GDP growth has been falling for the last 5 years, and it's falling by a larger amount this year. I think the growth was down to about 7% a year last year, and then this year it's targeted at 4 to 5%. And while that's still a much higher GDP growth than the U.S. is experiencing, the more important thing in the financial world is the trend, and the trend is down. And so they're alarmed. They have had overcapacity in manufacturing. As they're pulling back and not spending money, they're not spending money on energy, which, helps with all the building and manufacturing. So if they're spending less on that, that's why energy prices are falling. So here in the U.S., we're hearing about the devaluation of the yuan. We're hearing about the Chinese stock market falling. We're hearing about commodity prices falling. And it's important for people to understand that actually the economy in the U.S. is okay and growing right now. There are a lot of problems in China, and so China's sort of the tail that's wagging the stock market dog right now. But the inherent business nature in the U.S. is actually relatively fine right now, as long as you're not an energy company. If you're Exxon, you're not very happy right now. But, if you are Starbucks, you're doing fine.
Krista Huff, we want to thank you for joining us on the Conservative Commandos radio show. Please tell our audience where they could go to follow your work.
Okay, on politics, it's endglobalgovernance.com. And then the stock market, it's goodfellowllc.com.
Krista Huff, we want to thank you so much for joining us. Take care. God bless.
Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. Thanks for joining us. Daria, I want to thank you for sitting in today as my co-host. I also want to thank our guests, Patrina Mosley, Dave Biko, and our most recent guest, Chris Huff. I also want to thank Mateo for doing a great job working the boards. But for right now, we're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. We'll see you next week on the radio.
Once again, liberal bigotry rears its ugly head. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, as of now, if you are a Christian high school graduate and are considering a higher education, just beware that the Community College of Baltimore has joined the growing list of American colleges and universities that openly discriminate against Christians. No more is it just the dirty look or a snide remark, but as Mather Clark of the American Center for Law and Justice put it, public colleges and universities are taking the gloves off when it comes to Christian students on their college campi. Christian students can now expect applications to be rejected if they let it be known that they are a person of faith. Now, if you are a unnatural sexual practitioner or A mangy Muslim at war with America? And all non-Muslims? Hey, no problem. You get to the head of the class. One Christian student, Brandon Jenkins, was flat out rejected at the Community College of Baltimore after honestly answering an admission interview question, what was the most important thing in his life? To which young Brandon answered, my God. Thus, he was quickly told, this is no place for religion. Funny thing, though, bigoted campus liberals didn't refuse any Muslim students strolling around. Gee, I wonder why. I'm Ron Edwards.